The silence before departure of the alien city was too quiet. Normally, the capital of Sarikan pulsed with life hovercraft drifting above glowing streets, merchants barking prices in 10 different dialects, children climbing the metallic trees that shimmered with pale blue leaves. But tonight, silence ruled. The great spires of the Galactic Council loomed like watchtowers in morning. On the horizon, a scar in the sky burned brighter than the stars. The scar was human-made towering, orbital dock stretching like a silver wound across the heavens. And on that dock, ships waited. Human ships. Captain Elias Vey stood in the shadows of an abandoned market, watching as the docking lights blinked in slow rhythm, as if counting down time itself. His reflection flickered in his shattered glass pane-scarred cheek, weary eyes. A man who had lived too many battles and survived too many regrets. The whispers across the city were all the same. The humans are leaving. The council chambers had been locked down since the vote, guarded by armored drones. They thought silence and closed doors could erase guilt. But guilt had a way of leaking into streets, into eyes, into every broken thing. Left behind, a small voice pulled Elias from his thoughts. "You shouldn't be here," said Lyra, her alien accent curling around every word. Elias turned. The young Saralani medic stood at the edge of the alley, her pale skin catching the moonlight. Her species always looked fragile, thin limbs, translucent veins beneath skin that shimmered like crystal. But Lyra was stronger than most soldiers Elias had known. He had seen her hold the hand of a dying man while bombs fell outside the hospital. "Walls. Neither should you," Elias replied, her sharp eyes narrowed. "They'll come for you if you stay. They've already come for me." Elias muttered. Above them, one of the human ships shifted in orbit, engines glowing faintly. Lyra followed his gaze. "So it's true," she whispered. "You're really leaving?" "Not just me," Elias said. "All of us." The words tasted like ash. He hated saying them. Humanity had fought, bled, and built alongside alien races for decades. They had been the outsiders, once scrappy, unrefined, too emotional for the Council's liking. But they had carved a place here, earning respect through ingenuity and sacrifice. And now they were leaving it all behind. "Why now?" Lyra asked. Her voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. "After everything you've given, after everything you've saved." "Because we're not wanted," Elias said flatly. The Council made that clear. It wasn't just one vote. It was years of suspicion, propaganda, and quiet betrayals. Humanity was called reckless, violent, unstable. Every triumph was downplayed, every mistake magnified. When human engineers stopped a plague from collapsing the Saralani water grids, the Council called it luck. When human soldiers died protecting border colonies from raiders, the Council called it necessary losses. But the final insult had come weeks ago. The Council voted to ban humanity from core trade, from military alliance, from any seat of power. Not because of what humanity had done, but because of what they might do. Fear had won. Now, humanity was taking its ships, its fleets, its colonies, and leaving Council space. "They'll regret it," Lyra said quietly. "They'll realize." Too late. Elias almost smiled. Almost. "They already know," he said. "That's why they're hiding behind their walls." In the distance, alarms wailed. Elias stiffened. Search drones sweeping the streets with their red eyes. He pulled Lyra into the shadows, hand over her mouth until the machines drifted past. The Council wasn't hunting criminals tonight. They were hunting memories, any sign of human presence. They wanted humanity erased before it even left. When the drones were gone, Lyra exhaled shakily. "You can't stay," she whispered again. "Elias, they'll kill you. Then let them try." His voice was steel, but inside, something softer cracked. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid of what came after, of leaving behind the people who still believed in humanity, who still trusted them. People like Lyra. He looked up at the sky, at the scar of light where human ships waited. "This isn't how it was supposed to end," he murmured. Lyra touched his arm, gentle but firm. "Then don't let it end." Before Elias could answer, a thunderclap split the night. Far above, one of the orbital docks erupted in fire. A blossom of red and gold tore across the heavens, raining debris. People in the city screamed. Sirens howled. Lyra's eyes widened in terror. What was that? Elias already knew. His heart turned to ice. That, he whispered, was sabotage. And humanity's last ships might not leave at all. Asterisk fire in the sky, the explosion lit up the night like a false dawn. Elias and Lyra stood frozen as debris streaked across the heavens' glowing metal. Shattered panels, fragments of what had been the Solace, one of humanity's last colony ships. A low rumble shook the ground beneath their feet, like thunder rolling through the bones of the city. People spilled into the streets, pointing upward, some screaming, some whispering prayers. To the Cerulani, the sky was sacred no flame should ever scar it. To Elias, the sight was worse than sacrilege. It was annihilation. "No," Lyra whispered, clutching his sleeve. Her crystal-like skin shivered as her pulse raced beneath it. "They destroyed it, not they," Elias growled, jaw tight. "Someone did this. Someone wanted this." Above, tiny bursts of light flickered near the remaining ship's defensive flares, warning signals. Human pilots scrambled to contain the damage. The Solace had been empty, still in final loading, but its destruction wasn't just loss of metal. It was a message. "They're telling us to leave broken," Elias said. His voice was low, hard. "They don't want us leaving strong." Lyra's wide eyes turned toward him. But who? The rebels? The border raiders? Who would risk this? Elias didn't answer. He already knew. Not raiders, not rebels. This was too precise, too timed. This was politics in the ugliest form. A chorus of sirens rose across the city. Not the gentle blue alarms of fire control, but the deep, throbbing wail of council security. Within moments, armored drones swarmed into the sky, scanning every rooftop and alley. Their red eyes cut through the night like hunting dogs. "Elias," Lyra hissed, gripping his arm. "We have to move." He forced himself to look away from the burning horizon. He could do nothing for the Solace now, but he could still fight for what remained. They slipped through side streets, shadows among shadows, until they reached the lower levels of the city where the market domes had already shuttered. Elias ducked into a half-collapsed warehouse, pulling Lyra in after him. The air smelled of rust and ozone, old machinery long since abandoned. Elias paced, fists clenched. It wasn't an accident. A reactor doesn't just detonate in orbit without a trigger. Lyra crossed her arms tightly over her chest. Then it was sabotage, but no one here could reach that far into your ships. Unless they had access codes, Elias finished grimly. Codes only the Council could hold. The words hung in the air like poison. Lyra's expression shifted shock, then denial, then something like grief. No, the Council wouldn't what? Elias snapped. They voted us out. They stripped our rights. They called us a threat to galactic peace. You think they'd stop short of sabotage? You think they'd let us leave with dignity? Her crystalline skin shimmered faintly, betraying her distress. I want to believe. Elias softened, just slightly. I know you do. Outside, the sirens shifted pitch. Drones passed overhead, and Elias caught snatches of broadcast chatter from their comms. All humans detained. City lockdown. Suspect sabotage traced to human operatives. He swore under his breath. They're blaming us. What? Asterisk. They're going to pin this on us. Say we sabotaged our own ship. Classic council trick, rewrite the truth before anyone else can speak it. Lyra's lips parted in horror. But that means... It means every human still planetside is about to be hunted. A crash echoed in the distance, followed by shouts. Elias moved to the cracked doorway and peered out. Down the street, he saw humans, merchants, engineers, even children, being pulled from their homes by council enforcers. Red stun bolts flashed in the darkness. A mother screamed as her child was dragged away. Elias' chest burned with fury. They're cleaning house. Lyra grabbed his arm. Then we can't stay here. We need to warn your people. Tell them it isn't safe to wait. Elias' mind raced. The nearest uplink station was half a district away, guarded. The council wouldn't allow open comms. But without warning, the humans in orbit would think the sabotage was isolated. They wouldn't expect more. Asterisk, they'll hit another ship, Elias said, certainty chilling his veins. They won't stop at one. Before Lyra could answer, the warehouse door screeched open. Red light flooded inside. A squad of council. Enforcers stepped in, 4 armored figures with plasma rifles raised. Their leader's metallic voice barked, "Human! On your knees!" Elias raised his hands slowly, calculating. The rifles tracked his every move. Lyra stepped forward instinctively, putting herself between Elias and the guns. "Wait," she cried. "He's not..." Asterisk. "Step aside, Seralani," the leader ordered. "This human is wanted for questioning." "Questioning," Elias muttered. "That's one word for it." The leader aimed lower. "Kneel, now." For a moment's silence. Only the faint hum of power cores, the stink of ozone, the steady drip of water from a broken pipe. Elias met Lyra's eyes, hers, wide, fearful, pleading. He dropped. Not to his knees, but to a crouch, snatching a loose metal rod from the floor. In one motion, he swung upward. The rod cracked against the enforcer's helmet with a sickening crunch, sparks flying. "Run!" Elias roared. Chaos erupted. Plasma. Bolts scorched the walls as Elias barreled into the second soldier, ripping the rifle from his grip. The weapon spat white fire, dropping another enforcer before he could react. Lyra darted for cover, shrieking as heat blasts cut the air inches from her. Elias fought like a cornered wolf. Every move was desperate, brutal. He wasn't young anymore. His muscles ached, but rage drove him faster than he thought possible. Within moments, 3 enforcers lay sprawled across the floor, unmoving. The last fled into the night, shouting into his cum. "They'll call reinforcements," Lyra gasped. "Then we don't wait for them." Elias grabbed her hand, pulling her through the rear exit. They sprinted through alleys until Elias' lungs burned. Finally, they ducked into a hollow beneath a collapsed bridge. Here, the noise of the city dulled to a faint hum. Lyra leaned against the wall, trembling. "You'll be branded a murderer now. They'll say you killed council officers. They were going to kill me anyway." Elias checked the stolen rifle, its power core half spent. "It would have to do. We need evidence, Lyra. Proof it was. The council. Otherwise, the humans above will never know the truth." She swallowed hard. "And how do we find that?" Elias looked up through a crack in the ceiling at the burning sky. His eyes narrowed. "The sabotage came from inside," he said slowly. "That means the codes, the overrides. They're in the council data vaults." Lyra's skin flickered. Faintly in shock, "You're saying break into the council?" "Not break in." Elias' mouth curled in something between a grimace and a smile. "Steal in." Her pulse shimmered beneath her skin, betraying both fear and excitement. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Elias admitted. "But if we don't, humanity won't make it out alive." The ground trembled faintly as another explosion rolled across the heavens. They both turned upward. Another ship was burning. Elias' face hardened. It's starting. Asterisk the hidden enemy. The second blast in orbit left no doubt. Humanity's evacuation wasn't being delayed. It was being destroyed. Elias and Lyra pushed through the city's underbelly maintenance, tunnels reeking of mold and machine oil. The walls sweated condensation, dim light flickering from half-dead panels. Rats scurried along pipes. Few citizens ever came down here. That was why Elias had chosen it. Every step echoed too loudly in the dark. Lyra's crystalline skin glimmered. Faintly with each breath, her fear glowing through her veins. Elias kept scanning corners, stolen rifle clutched tight, every sense alive. The council vaults are above the chamber spire, Elias whispered, his voice barely carrying. Locked down tighter than a warship core. Security drones, biometric gates, you name it. But he tapped his temple. I know their patterns. You've been there before? Lyra asked softly. Elias gave a humorless smirk. Once. Back when they thought humans could be trusted. The memory bit deep. Diplomatic tours. Him standing stiff in uniform. Humans pretending they had a seat at the table. He remembered the way the alien delegates had looked at them. Curious, cautious, but always at arm's length. Never equals. Trust me, Elias muttered. They underestimated how much we remember. They reached a maintenance hatch, its keypad rusted, but still functional. Elias knelt, pried off the panel, and started bridging wires with quick, practiced motions. Sparks bit his fingers, but within seconds the hatch hissed open. Lyra blinked at him. You were a soldier, but you work like an engineer. Elias allowed himself the faintest grin. Soldiers who survive long enough learn to fix things, including locks. They slipped inside. The chamber spire was the tallest structure in the city, a silver fang stabbing upward toward the heavens. At night, it glowed with white light, a symbol of council authority. Inside, its upper levels held offices and courts. But below, deep in its fortified heart, lay the vault servers, archives, records, the pulse of council control. Getting in required stealth. Elias and Lyra moved through ventilation shafts, creeping past guard patrols whose armor gleamed like polished bone. Twice they froze as drones hovered near, red eyes scanning. Elias' heart hammered, but his old instincts held. Patience. Breathe. Wait. Move. Finally, they emerged into the sub-level corridors. The walls here were smooth black alloy, cold to the touch, lined with glowing glyphs. Lyra ran her fingers across them, reading silently. They've locked out external access, she whispered. No signals go in or out. Everything's contained. Here, which means, Elias said, whatever's in here is something they don't want anyone to see. They reached the vault entrance, a towering gate etched with shifting sigils, guarded by 2 council officers in white armor. Between them hovered a scanner orb, pulsing with faint blue light. Elias crouched behind a pillar, teeth clenched. We won't bluff past that. Lyra studied the orb. It's a life sign scanner. Reads heat patterns, pulse rhythms, even thought spikes. You can't trick it unless you're dead. Good thing, Elias muttered, pulling a small device from his belt pouch, that I stole this. He held up a compact, disruptor human-made military issue. Lyra frowned. That's Council Forbidden's tech. Yeah. Elias' eyes glinted. Humans made it anyway. He thumbed it alive. The disruptor hummed, a faint distortion, rippling the air around it. When he tossed it down the hall, it released a pulse silent but deadly. The orb flickered, sputtered, then went dark. What? One guard turned. Too late. Elias was already moving. He lunged from cover, rifle spitting white bolts. One guard dropped instantly, armor sparking. The second raised his weapon, but Lyra threw a shard of glass-like debris at his helmet, dazzling him for half a second. Elias finished it with a shot to the chest. Silence fell. The vault gate loomed unguarded. Lyra swallowed hard. "You kill like it's breathing." Elias checked the rifle's power core, nearly drained. He didn't answer. Killing had become too natural years ago. That was the problem. They stepped through. The vault was a cathedral of machines. Towering servers rose like pillars, humming. With power, cables coiled across the floor like veins. The air buzzed with static, thick enough to raise hair. Lyra's breath caught. This is everything. Every council decree, every order, every hidden vote. Elias moved to the nearest console, fingers dancing across alien glyphs. His human mind worked differently, but he'd studied their systems long enough. Data spilled across the holoscreen. Code lines, access records, command logs, and there it was. He froze. His pulse thudded in his ears. "What is it?" Lyra whispered. Elias turned the screen so she could see. A log of command overrides. Launch access. Codes. And next to them, authorization signatures? Not Rebel. Not Raider. Council High Command. Lyra gasped, her shimmering skin flickering like shattered crystal. No, it can't be. Elias' voice was iron. They ordered it. The Council itself sabotaged the ships. Line after line confirmed it. The Solace, the second colony ship, preloaded override codes routed directly from the chamber spire. This wasn't just sabotage. It was policy. They want humanity gone, Elias said quietly. Not just gone from their council, gone from existence. Lyra covered her mouth, horrified. Why? Why destroy you instead of letting you leave? Elias stared at the lines of code, bitterness rising like bile. Because they're afraid. Afraid of what we'll become when we're free of them. Afraid we'll outgrow them. The truth seared him. Humans had always been called reckless, dangerous. But what the Council really feared was potential. Humanity had done in a century what some races hadn't in millennia. Adapted, innovated, survived, and that scared them. Before Lyra could reply, a sharp click echoed behind them. Elias spun. Dozens of council guards poured into the vault, rifles leveled. The air shimmered as drones decloaked overhead. They had been waiting. A cold voice rang out. "Step away from the console, human." From the crowd, a tall figure stepped forward, an arbiter, robed in white and gold. His face was masked, his voice metallic. "You thought we wouldn't watch our own house?" The arbiter sneered. "You think your kind can outwit us?" Elias raised the rifle, but 20 barrels locked on him instantly. He knew the odds. Lyra stepped forward, desperate. "Please, you can't. He only wants the truth." Silence. The arbiter snapped. Elias' eyes locked on Lyra. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then he dropped the rifle, letting it clatter across the floor. Cold hands grabbed him, metal cuffs biting into his wrists. As they dragged him away, Elias shouted over his shoulder, "Lyra! The data, get it out." But before she could move, guards slammed her back, pinning her against the wall. The arbiter's voice echoed through the vault. "Humanity dies here, tonight." Prison of silence, the cell was built to erase men. No sound, no light, no sense of time. Just 4 black walls that drank everything, the hum of air filters, the faint pulse of energy shields, even his own footsteps. When Elias pressed his ear to the wall, it gave nothing back. That was the point. The council called it the prison of silence. A place where voices and memories went to die. Elias sat cross-legged on the floor, wrists still raw from the cuffs. His body ached from the beating they'd given him before throwing him in. but his mind burned hotter than his bruises. He couldn't stop seeing the logs, those cold lines of code condemning humanity, council signatures authorizing sabotage. His people weren't leaving in peace. They were being executed, and there was nothing he could do. The door hissed open. White light stabbed his eyes. A shadow entered. The Arbiter. The figure glided into the cell, robes brushing the floor, mask gleaming like carved ivory. Behind it, 2 guards stood motionless. Elias Fay, the Arbiter's voice droned. Metallic, hollow, former soldier, former liaison, now a trespasser and a thief. Elias forced himself to his feet, every muscle tense. And you're a murderer in a robe. The Arbiter tilted its head slightly. Words. Humans always bleed words. They think words make them strong. Truth makes us strong, Elias snapped. The Arbiter stepped closer until the cold mask filled Elias's vision. The truth, it said, is that your species was a mistake, an unstable variable, a wild ember in a galaxy built on order. And like any ember, you must be extinguished before you ignite the forest. Elias' jaw tightened. So you'll kill billions, wipe us from the stars. All because you're afraid. Not afraid, the Arbiter corrected. Wise, we have seen what you do. War after war. Fire after fire. You adapt. You conquer. You consume. You call it survival. We call it contagion. Elias' fists clenched. And yet, when raiders burned your border colonies, who fought them? Back, when plagues ate your water grids, who rebuilt them? We saved you. You served your purpose, the Arbiter said coldly. But your purpose is finished. Elias' throat burned with rage. You don't get to decide that. The Arbiter leaned close, voice dropping to a whisper like ice. We already have. Even now, our operatives move through orbit. Your ships burn one by one. Soon, humanity will be a memory, and the galaxy will be safe. Elias' heart thundered. He lunged, but the guards pinned him instantly, slamming him against the wall. The Arbiter didn't flinch. You cannot fight inevitability, human. You cannot fight silence. The mask tilted once more. Then the Arbiter turned and swept from the room. The guards followed, leaving Elias alone, got the door sealed. Darkness swallowed him again. He didn't know how long he sat there. Minutes, hours, maybe longer. Time dissolved in the silence. His anger cooled into despair. His people were dying above, ship by ship. And here he was, useless in a black box. For the first time in years, Elias felt the weight of helplessness. Not fear, he could handle fear, but helplessness was worse. He had fought wars, patched wounds, built engines from scrap. He had always done something. But here, there was nothing to do. He pressed his forehead to the wall and whispered to know. One, don't let them win. A faint sound broke the silence. A scrape. A click. Elias lifted his head. The cell door shimmered, then sparked. Thin cracks of blue light traced its edges. Another click. Then another. Suddenly, the shield dissolved with a sharp hiss. A figure. Slipped inside. Lyra. Her translucent skin shimmered faintly in the darkness, sweat glistening on her forehead. She held a stolen access tool in shaking hands. Elias, she whispered urgently. Get up. We don't have much time. He stared at her in disbelief. How? I followed them, she said, breathless. I watched. I waited. And when the guards changed shifts, Lyra, Elias cut in. Do you have any idea what they'll do to you if they catch you here? She met his eyes, fierce despite the tremor in her voice. Yes, but I also know what they'll do if I don't. Elias' chest tightened. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't built for this. Yet here she was, risking everything. For him, for humanity. Come on, she urged, tugging his arm. They're destroying another ship already. We have to move. Elias shook his head to clear the fog of despair. He straightened, strength flowing back into his limbs. He wasn't beaten yet. Do you have the data? He asked. Lyra pulled a small crystal drive from her pouch. Its surface glowed faintly, data patterns flickering across it. I copied the logs, everything, the sabotage orders, the signatures. It's all here. Elias exhaled slowly. Relief and dread tangled in his chest. That's enough to damn them. If we can get it to the fleet, they'll know the truth, Lyra finished. Footsteps echoed faintly down the hall. Distant at first, then closer. Lyra's eyes widened. Guards. Elias grabbed her hand. Run. They slipped from the cell, moving silently down the corridor. The prison of silence stretched in both directions, rows of black doors, each holding another forgotten soul. Elias wondered how many voices had been erased here, how many truths had been buried, but not tonight. Not his. They ducked into a maintenance shaft, just as boots thundered past. Elias led Lyra through the dark. Heart-pounding dot at the shaft's end. A faint glow revealed a narrow service exit. He shoved it open. Cold night air hit his face like freedom. For a moment, he just breathed. Then Lyra grabbed his sleeve, pointing skyward. High above, another ship burned. Its hull split in two, spilling fire into the void. Lyra's voice broke. Elias? There. Aren't many left. His jaw tightened. His people were running out of time. We need to get to orbit, Elias said. His voice was steel again. Now. Asterisk the escape, and the choice the city was no longer silent. It roared. Sirens screamed across. Every district. Fires burned in high towers where mobs clashed with drones. Some were looting, others fleeing, but most simply stood in the streets, staring at the sky as more human ships burned. Elias and Lyra kept low, moving through smoke-choked alleys toward the industrial quarter. If there was a chance to reach orbit, it would be from there, from the launch spires that serviced small craft. Big colony ships were finished, but smaller transports might still slip through. Everywhere they went, propaganda drones blared lies into the chaos. Attention, citizens. Human saboteurs have struck our peaceful sky. The Council will protect you. Trust nitrogen monoxide human. Report all human activity. Lyra glanced up at one of the drones, face pale with fury. They're rewriting it already. They always do, Elias muttered. Teeth gritted. They ducked into a service tunnel where the smell of burnt metal stung their noses. The tunnel led into a maintenance yard, long abandoned, filled with rusting loaders and dismantled hovercraft. Elias scanned the shadows. We'll need transport. We can't walk across half the city before they tighten the net. Lyra pointed to a squat hauler half buried under tarp and dust. That one? Elias yanked the tarp free, coughed at the cloud, and examined the hauler. Old, scratched, but serviceable. He popped the hood and grunted in satisfaction. Human. Design. One of ours, Lyra blinked. But how did it get here? Elias shot her a grim look. Because everything worth a damn in this city was built by human hands. They'll never admit it, but they've depended on us more than they. No, his hands moved quick, reconnecting cables, bridging wires with scraps of foil. Sparks bit his fingers, but soon the hauler hummed weakly. The engine coughed, then came alive. Get in, he barked. The hauler sputtered forward, rattling through broken gates into the open streets. Elias kept to the shadows, weaving through debris, but soon searchlights slashed across the sky. Drones, one. Spotted them instantly. Red bolts scorched the pavement near their wheels. Hold on, Elias shouted, jerking the hauler down a side street. The vehicle bucked wildly. Lyra clung to the dash, eyes wide as glass. Drones swarmed overhead like mechanical vultures. Elias swerved, crashed through a market stall, then slammed a hand on the control stick. "We need cover. There." Lyra pointed to a half-collapsed tower. Elias swerved hard, skidding into the ruined archway just as plasma fire rained. Down the hauler shuddered to a halt. Smoke hissed from its engine. Elias cursed. "We're not making it far in this thing." Lyra's hands trembled as she held the crystal drive. "Elias, even if we get to orbit, what then? Your fleet is crippled. If the Council destroys all the colony ships—" "They won't," Elias cut in, voice low but certain. Lyra blinked. At him. "How can you be sure?" Elias hesitated. He hadn't told her everything. Not yet. But now there was no time left for half-truths. "Because we're not leaving empty-handed," he said. "What do you mean?" Elias leaned close, his voice a rasp meant for her ears only. "The last colony fleet isn't just carrying people. It's carrying knowledge, blueprints, entire archives of engineering, medicine, energy systems. Everything we learned while serving the Council, all copied, all stored. And more than that," he paused, weighing the weight of the words. Then he said it. "We're taking the cure." Lyra froze. "The cure? You mean—" "Yes," Elias said grimly. "The human labs cracked it. The wasting plague. The one eating through half the outer colonies. We synthesized a permanent cure months ago. Council demanded we hand it over, but we didn't trust them, so we kept it, copied it. And now it's leaving with us." Lyra's crystalline skin flickered violently, light racing across her veins. "That plague will kill millions. The Seralani. My people—" Elias met her gaze, hard but not unkind. "I know. That's why they won't let us go. They need us. But they're too proud to admit it." The words hit her like a physical blow. She staggered back, clutching the drive to her chest. "So you'll let the galaxy suffer? You'll abandon them?" Elias' jaw tightened. His voice dropped to a whisper. "We offered help. Again, and again. They spat in our faces, branded us dangerous. Now they want to erase us. Tell me, Lyra, why should we save them?" Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Because not everyone is the Council. Because there are children dying in those colonies. Because mercy is what makes you human." The words cut deeper than any blade. Elias turned away, fists clenched. She was right. Damn her, she was right. But mercy had cost them before. And mercy wouldn't bring back the ships already lost. Before he could answer, a roar split the air. Council. Skimmers sleek, black, bristling with cannons swept down the avenue. Searchlights locked onto the ruin where they hid. "Go!" Elias barked. He grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her deeper into the rubble. Plasma fire ripped through the walls, showering them with sparks. They scrambled through shattered stairwells until they emerged into the upper ruins of the tower. From here, the spaceport spires were visible in the distance, glowing like needles against the burning sky. "That's our way out," Elias said, breath ragged. "If we can reach the port—" The tower shook violently. The skimmers were blasting. The base. Dust rained from the ceiling. Cracks split the walls. "They're bringing it down." Lyra cried. Elias seized her hand and ran. They sprinted across crumbling floors as the tower collapsed around them. Stone and steel screamed as it fell. At the last second, they leaped through a gaping hole and landed hard on the next roof. Behind them, the tower imploded in a roar of var. Fire and dust. Lyra coughed violently, crystal veins glowing erratic. "We can't outrun them like this." Elias scanned the skyline. His mind raced. Then his eyes locked on a Council skimmer sweeping overhead. "We don't outrun them," he said. His voice was steel again. "We steal one." They set the ambush in a narrow street where the rubble forced the skimmer low. Elias and Lyra crouched in the shadows, hearts pounding. When the craft swept past, Elias hurled a scavenge charge against its hull. The blast rocked it sideways, sending it crashing into the street. Before the soldiers inside could recover, Elias was there, ripping open the hatch, dragging one out, slamming a rifle butt across another's helmet. Lyra ducked as plasma bolts screamed past, then jabbed her shard of crystal glass into a soldier's power conduit. Sparks erupted. The soldiers spasmed and fell. In seconds, the skimmer was theirs. Elias threw himself into the pilot's seat, hands flying over alien controls like second nature. The craft lifted shakily, then steadied. Lyra climbed into the co-pilot chair, still clutching the crystal drive. Her voice shook. If we fail, humanity dies, and so do the colonies. Elias' knuckles whitened on the controls. Then we don't fail. The skimmer roared skyward, straight toward the glowing spaceport spires. And overhead, another human ship erupted in fire. Only two remained. Asterisk the last departure. The skimmer tore through the burning skies, weaving between towers as fire and smoke swallowed the horizon. Behind them, Council interceptors shrieked in pursuit. Ahead, the spaceport spires rose like colossal knives stabbing upward, their docking rings glittering with the silhouettes of human ships still holding position too. Few, far too few. They're sealing the spires, Lyra shouted over the roar. She pointed at the docking rings. Massive blast doors were sliding shut. If those close, nothing gets through. Then we beat the clock, Elias growled. He yanked the controls hard, sending the skimmer into a near-suicidal dive. Plasma. Bolts scorched the air behind them. Elias skimmed so low the craft scraped rooftops, sparks raining down. He pushed the stolen engines until they screamed like tortured animals. Lyra gritted her teeth, holding the crystal drive tight. If we lose this, the cure dies with us. Then we don't lose it, Elias said flatly. His voice was calm, now almost cold, like a soldier in the moment just before the fight. They burst into the open air above the port's perimeter. Towers of metal and glass ringed the landing platforms, bristling with automated turrets already swiveling toward them. Hang on. Elias barked. He swung the skimmer in a tight arc, slamming the craft down onto a maintenance platform. Alarms shrieked. Drones swarmed like hornets. Elias was out of the seat before the skimmer fully stopped, rifle blazing. Move! He shouted. Lyra followed, crystal shards glowing in her fists. Together they sprinted across the platform, ducking behind. Cargo crates as bolts of plasma scorched the steel. The spaceport was chaos, half-human refugees screaming to board, half-council soldiers forcing them back, and everywhere the thunder of battle above as the last. Human ships held the line against overwhelming fleets. A council officer spotted them, his ornate armor gleaming in the firelight. His voice was amplified, booming over the chaos. Stop them. The human carries the archive. Lyra's eyes widened. They know about the cure. Then we run faster, Elias snarled. Fought their way into the docking ring. Inside, the halls were filled with smoke and terrified civilians, alien and human alike. Soldiers clashed with desperate families. Drones hovered in every corridor. It wasn't just a battlefield. It was a slaughter. Lyra froze at the sight of a Seralani child lying on the floor, crystalline veins dim, chest barely rising. Her hands shook. The plague. She whispered. The mother knelt beside the child, weeping. She looked up at Lyra with eyes full of raw despair. No words were spoken, but the plea was clear. Elias grabbed Lyra's arm. We don't have time. But Lyra pulled free. She pressed her palm against the child's forehead, and her crystal veins flared bright as fire. The shard in her other hand pulsed, interfacing with the drive. She whispered, voice breaking, "This is what mercy looks like." Light coursed into the child. The veins in the small body flared, then stabilized. The shallow breaths deepened. The child stirred weakly. "Alive." The mother sobbed, clutching Lyra's hands. Elias stood there, torn. Every second wasted meant humanity's last. Chance slipped further away. But when Lyra looked up at him, her face streaked with tears, he saw the truth written in her eyes. This wasn't just about survival. It was about what survival meant. Before he could respond, a concussive blast rocked the hall. A platoon of council. Soldiers stormed through the smoke, led by a figure Elias recognized instantly. High Chancellor DRA, EL. Tall, imposing, his armor black and silver. His voice carried the weight of command, venomous and sharp. "Humanity will not leave, not with our cure, not with our future." The soldiers raised their rifles. Lyra staggered back, clutching the drive. Drayle leveled a clawed hand at Elias. "Give me the archive, and perhaps I'll let your species live in exile. Resist, and I burn every last one of your ships." Elias raised his rifle, aiming dead at the Chancellor's chest. His voice was low, steady, full of iron. "You had your chance. You could have stood beside us. Instead, you spat on everything we gave you. So now you watch us leave." Drayle sneered. "Arrogant to the end," he signaled. The soldiers opened fire. The hall exploded into chaos. Elias dropped 2 soldiers in quick bursts, then dove for cover. Lyra hurled a crystal shard that burst into searing light, blinding the nearest attackers. Plasma bolts shredded the walls around them. Elias shouted, "Go! Get to the docks, but you go." Lyra sprinted toward the docking gate, clutching the archive. Elias stayed, cutting. Down soldier after soldier. His rifle overheated, but he didn't stop, switching to sidearm, to blade, to fists if needed. He fought like a man with nothing left to lose, because he didn't. Until Drayle stepped forward. The Chancellor moved like a predator, striking Elias with a backhand that sent him sprawling. Elias staggered to his knees, blood in his mouth. "Think your species will outlast us?" Drayle hissed. "You'll die forgotten." Elias spat blood, eyes burning. "Maybe, but not today." He lunged. The two crashed together, a brutal clash of steel and flesh. Elias' blade skidded off Drow's armor. Drow's claws ripped across Elias' chest. Pain lanced through him, but he didn't stop. Behind them, Lyra reached the docking gate only, to find it sealed. Above, she could see the colony ship Arcadia preparing for launch, engines flaring, seconds from leaving. "Elias!" She screamed. He glanced back, saw the sealed gate, saw her desperation. Then he looked at the manual override panel just beside Drayle. He knew what he had to do. With a roar, Elias drove his blade into Drow's shoulder, pinning him against the wall. The Chancellor bellowed in rage. Elias slammed his other hand against the override. Sparks showered as the gate began to grind open. Lyra cried out, tears streaming, "Come with me." Elias turned his head. His face was pale, bleeding, but his eyes were steady. "You carry the cure. You carry hope. That's bigger than me." "No!" she screamed. Elias gave her the faintest bloodied smile. "Tell them. We tried." The last thing Lyra saw before she was pulled into the docking corridor by rushing refugees was Elias, still grappling with Drayle as the gate slammed shut between them. She stumbled forward, clutching the archive to her chest as alarm screamed. Overhead, the Arcadia roared, engines igniting, lifting from the docking ring. But above the city, a massive shadow loomed, Council warships descending, weapons glowing. Asterisk. If the Arcadia launched now, it might escape. Or it might be annihilated before clearing orbit. Lyra's tears blurred her vision as she looked up at the ship. Then back at the sealed gate where Elias fought alone, the fate of humanity balanced. On the edge of a knife, asterisk the Exodus and the ashes, the roar of the Arcadia's engines shook the entire station. Docking clamps groaned, releasing the last tether between humanity's final arc and the dying world below. Refugees cried out, some in terror, some in desperate hope, as the Titanic ship rose from the docking ring like a wounded giant. The observation glass, Lyra pressed her palm against the cold surface, clutching the crystal drive tight to her chest. Tears blurred her vision. She could still hear Elias' last words in her head, "Not tell them we tried." But above, the sight that awaited her crushed her breath. Council warships, dozens of them, descended like a wall of steel, weapons humming with lethal power. Their shadows blotted out the stars. The Council wasn't going to let humanity leave. They'll cut the Arcadia down before it clears orbit, someone whispered. Panic rippled through the hall. Lyra trembled. Her people, the Seralani, had once called the Council wise. She had once believed in their justice. Now all she saw were tyrants with eyes like vultures, too late to understand what they had destroyed. She looked at the crystal drive. She looked at the Arcadia. And she knew what she had to do. Above the city, in the control tower, Elias bled. Against the wall, his blade still buried in High Chancellor Drow's shoulder. The Chancellor roared, tearing the weapon free. Elias staggered back, chest heaving, vision dimming. "You can't stop what's coming," Drail spat, advancing. "Your arc dies today?" Elias glanced at the control console, flickering with power feeds to the orbital defenses Council cannons that ringed the station, already targeting the Arcadia. He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Maybe I can't stop it, but I can make. Damn sure you don't win." With his last strength, Elias lunged for the console. Drow's claws raked his side, fire tearing through his ribs, but Elias slammed his bloody hand onto the manual override. Sparks screamed. Systems overloaded. And one by one, the orbital cannons turned away from the Arcadia and toward the Council fleet. Drow's eyes went wide. "No!" Elias met his gaze, blood dripping from his lips. His voice was a whisper, but it carried all the fury of a dying world. "Tell your Council. Humanity says goodbye." The cannons fired. In orbit. The void lit up with fire. Beams of searing energy ripped through the descending Council fleet, tearing ships apart in brilliant explosions. The Council armada reeled in shock, formations. Breaking. On the Arcadia's bridge, Captain Merrick stared in disbelief. "The defense cannons, they're protecting us." "Then we don't waste it," his first officer snapped. "Full burn, get us clear." The Arcadia's engines roared, driving the colossal ship upward, higher, closer to the black ocean of space. Lyra burst onto the bridge, shoving past crew. "Captain, take this." She thrust the crystal drive into his hands. "It's the cure for both our species. You must guard it, no matter what happens." The captain's jaw tightened. He saw the grief in her eyes, the way her crystalline veins pulsed with pain. "Where's Elias?" Lyra shook her head, tears falling. "Gone." The captain bowed his head once. "Then we carry him with us." Outside the viewport, Council. Ships regrouped, furious and vengeful. But it was too late. The Arcadia broke free of the atmosphere, engines blazing as it clawed its way toward the stars. Below, in the control tower, smoke filled the chamber. Alarms screamed. Elias slumped against the console, lungs burning, vision dimming. Drail staggered too, wounded but alive. "You've only delayed the inevitable," the Chancellor hissed. Elias chuckled weakly. "Delayed? That's all humanity ever needed." time. Through the shattered glass, he saw the Arcadia rising, a bright flame climbing toward the heavens. He felt his heart swell, pride, sorrow, everything all at once. He whispered, so faint only the dead could hear, go. Then his body sagged, still at last dot in the council chambers, light years away. The holographic projections of the fleeing human ark filled the chamber. Counselors sat in stunned silence as reports streamed in. The Arcadia has escaped. The fleets could not stop it. The human sabotaged the defenses against us. Murmurs rippled through the hall, fear, anger, shame. For centuries, they had ruled with arrogance, blind to what humanity had shown them. Resilience, mercy, defiance. One counselor whispered what none dared admit. It's too late to make it right. The chamber fell into silence. 4. The first time in millennia, the council knew what it meant to lose Dot in the void of space. The Arcadia sailed into the black, leaving the council worlds behind, carrying the last hope of humanity and the cure that could heal both species. Lyra stood at the viewport, the stars stretching endless before her. Her hand pressed to the glass, as if reaching for the man she had left behind. Elias, she whispered, voice trembling. I'll carry it. I'll carry you. And as the stars swallowed them, humanity's ark vanished into the dark. Behind, on their dying world, the council could only watch, and the universe, for the first time in ages, felt the absence of mankind. Asterisk.